Alright, here we go. For those of you who need a little retouch base on this. Okay, so we are doing trigonometry, one step closer to pre-calc. And the first thing we need to realize is we will not have a calculator, so we need to be able to evaluate and find sine and cosine without the help of a calculator. So we're going to get this table memorized into our noggin. It looks terrible, but it's super easy to remember. So here are the tricks to filling out the table. We're going to copy this table over here using our memorizing tricks. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to simply copy down the first column and the top. So our top left is our theta, our angle. Then we have our 30, 45, 60. And we have sine and cosine on the top. Sine and cosine. So the easy way to remember is using these four tricks. First off, sine counts from 1 to 3. 1, 2, 3. So you're just going to write 1, 2, 3. Cosine is 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Next, everything is divided by 2. So all you're going to do is under everything, divide by 2, 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 divide by 2. Now the only thing we are missing in our table are our square roots. All of the tops with 2's and 3's get a square root. So you just go square root, square root, square root, square root, and you're done. Those are the easy tricks to writing out this table, because we are going to look back at this table when we start solving each of our 3 examples. So how this works is if I were to say like, hey, what is the sine of 30 degrees? You go look at sine, you go down to 30 degrees. The sine of 30 degrees is 1/2. The cosine of 45 degrees is square root of 2 over 2. The cosine of 60 degrees is 1/2. So that's how we read our table, which is part of solving our problem. Okay, so let's look at example 1. Okay, example 1, we want to find the measure, the length, the value of x. We want to find that side. So the first thing we want to do is always write down what do we have. In this case, what are each of the blue numbers or variables representing? So in our triangle, we first know that this 30 degrees, this is our theta. That's our angle. That's what's going to be put into sine, cosine, or tangent. Now I need to list what sides do I have, what sides am I looking for. So if I start at the 90-degree angle and draw a line diagonal across my triangle, that means 8 is my hypotenuse. So I'm going to just write an H for hypotenuse. X is either going to be the opposite or the adjacent. In this case, because x is right next to the theta, that side is touching our angle. That means this is the adjacent side. So I'm going to write an A for adjacent. Our opposite side is the side all the way across from the theta, but because that's not in this problem, we're not going to worry about writing it down. So we have our theta, our hypotenuse, and our adjacent. Okay, so that's everything I know, and you should start every problem by writing down what do you know. After, we need to figure out, am I going to use sine, cosine, or tangent? To figure out, in my mind, I picture that SOHCAHTOA. I'm going to write it out. SOHCAHTOA. So I'm imagining SOHCAHTOA. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, in this problem, I have my A for adjacent and my H for hypotenuse. So I go and look, okay, sine is opposite in the hypotenuse. That's not what I want. Cosine is adjacent in a hypotenuse. I'm like, oh, look, that's A and H. That means I should use cosine. Because cosine is the ratio between sine is the ratio between my two sides. So let's set this up. Cosine is the one I'm going to use. Oh, it's still going. Let's go. All right. So we know we need to use cosine, right? So I'm going to set up cosine, because that's the trig function we chose. And what's my angle? 30 degrees. Cosine of 30 equals my adjacent A over H. My A is X. My hypotenuse H is 8. So from here, we need to solve this. So I need to figure out what cosine of 30 is, and this is where the table comes in hand. So I'm going to go up and look. Cosine of 30. If I go to cosine and go down to 30, it's the square root of 3 over 2. So I'm going to rewrite cosine of 30 as the square root of 3 over 2 equals x over 8. And from here, it's like back in the day when we do cross multiplication. I multiply square root of 3 and 8, and then I multiply 2 and x together. When I get that, 8 times the square root of 3 is 8 square root of 3. 2 times x is 2x. To finish this problem off, which I'm running out of room, so I'm going to rewrite it up here. I need to divide both sides by 2. The 2's are gone on the right side. And when we're dividing on the left, we're just dividing. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Bring down the square root of 3. And that's my answer. 4 square root of 3. So I'm going to do example 2. So when I look at example 2, the same thing. I'm looking for what do I know? In this problem, again, I know my theta is 60 degrees. I know that the side across from the 90-degree angle is my hypotenuse h. If I start my marker at 60 degrees and go all the way across my triangle, I get to x, so that's my O for opposite. So I have my angle, which is 60. I have trying to find my O opposite, and I have my hypotenuse. So I'm going to go back up to SOHCAHTOA, and I'm looking for which of them have an O and an H. And the only one with an O and an H is right at the start. So I know that I'm going to use sine for this one. Okay? So I have the sine of 60 degrees equals my opposite over hypotenuse, x over 12. And we're going to solve this just like we did before. I'm going to go find out what is the sine of 60 when I look at my table. The sine of 60 is square root of 3 over 2. The square root of 3 over 2 equals x over 12. And we use our cross multiplication, or your butterfly method, whatever you like to call it. 12 square root of 3 equals 2 times x. Again, we're always going to be dividing each side by 2. 2's cancel. I just need to remember to divide 12 by 2, giving me 6 square root of 3. And I'm finished. Okay, we got one more to go. Example 3. Just like before, theta is 45 degrees. 6 is across from my 90-degree angle, so that must be my h, my hypotenuse. X is right next to the angle, so that's my A for adjacent. I have an A, I have an H, so when I write SOHCAHTOA, the only trig function that has A and H in it is cosine, C-A-H. So I know I'm going to use cosine for this problem. The cosine of 45 equals my x over 6. Now we go look at our table to figure out what is the cosine of 45. If I look, the cosine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. Yep. So I'm going to write the square root of 2 over 2 equals x over 6. I do my cross multiplication, which means I multiply the diagonals. I get 6 square root of 2 equals 2x. Divide your sides by 2. And 3 root 2 is what x equals. And that is how we use trig to solve for the sides of our triangles.
And we're done.